Hey there, it's Chris, and welcome back to the next part, the Banks Shigami project, where we definitely have a character going on now. We're not fully there yet, but we definitely have a character starting up here. That said, the character is slightly different than I thought. My proportions are definitely different from here to you can see the image on the side I'm going off of. And that's because remember way back in like session 2 or whatnot, when I was trying to do the original bulking out phase, and I was kind of using this image to go from. Yeah, well, that image has translated into a slightly wider waist, slightly wider kind of everything. So our proportions are probably closer to this, but our form is still going off of this guy. And actually, the chest is a little bigger for both. That's probably more towards like a Mike Hagar kind of look, if you enjoy the game Street Fighter or any kind of Capcom stuff. But otherwise, we're getting there. And before I actually begin, I just want to show you one reason why I love my job. Because every now and again, if you're looking like usually for insulation of stuff, like going like an old house, and you have to take down like a ceiling or you go into an attic and find something, they'll often use the newspapers and whatnot to kind of use as insulation up in those. And today our electrician was up in the attic, and after he had left, I'm looking in the trash cans, and these are the types of the gold we love to find. Now, unfortunately, the date is going to be in your top left corner, so we don't have that on this guy. But just finding stuff like this, to me, is awesome. So here you can get, if you want featuring a 62 model home, so we're going to figure this is a 1962 was the last time this portion of the house I'm working on has been renovated. You can get a 7-bedroom quality home, 1.5 baths, 3 bedrooms. You have a kitchen, dining room, living room, rec room, all starting at $19,990. Or it looks like you can get $1,850. It'll get you something else written off down here. But just finding these types of things to me is just like it makes it so fun. It's just it is just quality stuff. But in any case, coming back to the model, back into what I'm actually going to be doing over here, is I'm probably going to have this be the last session on this before I actually harden it. So I'm going to get as far as I can. Then I might need to do some tweaking up on the folds and the fabric afterwards. But by now, you're going to, at least by the end of the day, you're going to have an idea of how that works. I might be adding a couple, but I'm not going to be adding a stupid amount, like a really vast majority of amount of stuff in here. It's mostly kind of in there. You can see it already has a decent part of the work. That's saying on the back, when we looked at our extremely pixelated image on here, he does have some kind of clasp going on. And good, I found one more image that has his back, and it is the only other one that has his back there. And you can see, I'm pointing at the screen, which doesn't help at all. You can see the clasp system a lot more clearly on what's actually going on back there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, zoom in, stick it on the side there, and we're going to try to do what we can with that. Even though in the end of all this, it's going to be 100% not visible, because he has his scarf and that big old nail is going to be coming down the back. So you're not going to see it in the end, but we're still going to make it. So we're going to do that. We're going to do more on the folds, and I think the hardening, or this next hardening, is going to be done off camera, because again, the next session I 100% need to do from start to finish on camera. Or that one should be its own section and not part and parcel of a different one. So okay, so what do we have to do? Shoot, do, 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 do. So first off, we got our belt is kind of, now in this view, the belt is much, let me put back the full screen. The belt there is really kind of small. I mean, it actually looks like a standard belt in that one. But if we were to come back to profile, you can see that one's getting a little bigger. I want to see, if we come here, we're a little bigger still, it looks like, and then we get our normal guy, and it is pretty big on this one. So what we're going off of is a smaller version of the stuff that we have right now. But I'm still going to use this as the example that I'm going to be going from, and then, or at least use this as a basis of what I can make this from, and then that's going to be that in the end. So what we need to do is we need to probably trim you down kind of about there-ish. And the other side kind of ends in a clasp. So this side can actually kind of come almost all the way forward. Because this dead ends in a circle. That one dead ends a little bit bigger. So I can take that off. And now we can see just how ugly it is underneath and why we're hiding all this stuff. I want to make a little piece that goes up top. Okay, so we want something that's going to be a little bigger than you. Once again, I need to just stick a straight edge other than this out here. I really don't like using this as the straight edge, only because I don't want to put any like nicks and cuts and all that type of stuff in it, which will inevitably happen when I do that. So I really at some point need to actually be good and do what I'm supposed to do. Now, actually, we're going to go back to the other back image on this, because if we come up, the pants themselves actually come up, or it comes up just a little higher than the belt, and that's going to line up with where these orange stripes are going down. So I just want to get an idea of where these orange stripes are kind of coming down. So probably something like that. So I can bring, I probably want just a little bit wider than that. So you know what I can do is I can shift that to make it a little bit thinner. So when I send it through once, it's now wider, which kind of solves problems and is probably going to kind of cause other problems. I think it's going to cause other problems. I've done stuff like that before. I'm like, oh, I can just make it a little thinner and it'll all be fine, and then it wasn't fine in the end. So let's not get into that problem. Let's just make you exactly 1 inch. I know I'm slightly below the camera. I'm going off the grid on the ground here. It's actually exactly 1 inch. I can bring that up, and that's not too bad. I think that's gonna work. And we don't really need this to go down below the belt per se. So if I want you up, again, just a teeny bit, I can bring you down something like that. And just kind of peel you back a little. Peel you back a little. We can stick this guy in here. We can stick you back on. And we can stick you back on. And now as long as he still comes up and down, that's the only really important part. We need that to work. And I'm just going to push this in so it's sticking to the belt that's there, and that'll give a little bit of structure to everything. Make life a little nicer when it actually hardens. And let's turn you around just so I can attach you easier. Because again, the front is the important part when it all goes together. Okay, so we have that. So next, let's click you, put you back on. I know the other one's on different layers below this one. We're still going to turn that off. Now we're going to want to do a little circly do. Actually, I could do the circly do. Let's go and do. I have too many lines on my computer. Let's not hit the backdrop. That is all the wrong. Okay, so what are we doing on this? I'm moving my own image on the computer over that I can go off my own stuff. So yeah, if you come in, we want kind of a thin piece that goes over the edge. Something like that. Now again, we want to have it be a little higher up, a little higher down, so we can tuck. We can tuck this in. Now that kind of stays there, and this one actually is really skinny, but they do put the two little vertical lines on this. Which actually on this front edge, when I was looking later on at it, they do actually have the two little lines coming down on this one too, to show that's kind of where it's been sewn together. So let's do that while doing these little line things are on my mind, and it will kind of finish off this little detail. Yeah, my guess is it takes about half an episode or half a session to get this done, and half to do kind of work on the folds as much as I can, and anticipating that that's where I come with this is going to be the final session of this, but that could always change. Okay, so next we need a really skinny piece, which I, for some reason, have something just lying around on the ground over here, which is super cool. And I need you to come in something like that. Yes, something like that. Cut off the edge. Alright, it doesn't go any higher than that thing goes, so let's bring you down a little bit. There's always room for touch-up stuff. It's never too late to do touch-ups. You come down in here, cut that. Oh, we cut it and we take it off. Okay, so we have a little clasp kind of going on there. And from that, there's are we even going to see, you know what, we're not even going to see the little loop, so I'm not even going to deal with the other little loop. Okay, so the other one is we're going to need a circle that kind of comes up here. So let's start by making ourselves, now we already know how we do the circles from before, and this one I already have kind of half a circle already going, so I might as well just continue going with that, because it just kind of worked that way. So we chamfer that, we chamfer that. Now I can chamfer these even more if I wanted to, or I can just kind of tap down the edges. It gets close, and then when I put it on the model itself, I can get it even nicer. So, being as we're only really going to see half of this circle anyway, not concerned. This could be a fairly ugly looking circle. We're only going to see half. And if my camera keeps pointing down like that, yeah, we're not going to see any more than half then. And that looks very wrong. Now, if we were to continue the circle, we still wind up being just a little bit short of you. So we can do something like that. Doesn't look very great, but How about I just cut this thing in half right now? We can actually just take the smaller half, stick it right there. Alright, widen this thing out to its full size. Pick up a couple of these little pieces that have been falling off, so we're all together again. Send it through. Okay, now we need a little band. Alright, are we the right kind of height? Height's not too bad. So let's get you. We want a little band like that. Maybe shrink it just a little bit. And unfortunately, because I cut my circle in half, this doesn't look like it's on top of anything. Because it's not on top of anything. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take that, shrink this down so it's about the same size as our semicircle. Stick that up right there. We can stick our new one on top of it. So it reads like it's actually up above, like it's supposed to be. And everything was done right from the start. As long as no questions are asked, it was perfect. So that comes down here. Once again, we get our little finishy lines. Because again, if you're going to sew this thing together, you're going to wind up with lines kind of right there. So looks right. Of course, I put the line on and then pressed in a little bit. Putting the lines on should be the last thing we do. And this is not taking as long as I thought it could, so that's kind of nice. Alright, so now what I want to do is make... Actually, we want a little skinny line coming off of this, kind of how we did the other one. It's going to be... I know, once again, I'm right off the bottom of the preview. I'm being bad. I'm getting lazy and just don't want to move the camera. That's really what it is. That's just me being me. Me being bad. Let's see, this kind of comes up. Where's my knife? My knife is down here. Alright, finished that. Finish that. Let's see, this one. This one wants to be very angular as it goes in. The other one was kind of a square. This one's more like a triangle. But we get that kind of going. And then we get our little button guy that goes on top. And even if you look at that, it has a little kind of indentation thingy going on. So we can just use the back of this to give ourselves a little circle, which I should have done after this was put on, because now I'm going to smush it all as I try to install it. Stick. That's way too big. That's like twice the size it needs to be. Yeah, when you're using something that big, it's like, that's it. That's our dude. It will always stick to my finger before it sticks to this. So now we have our little Even that's looking huge. Cut this in half one more time. There we go. That looks a little more correct. We have a little clasp. That's the wrong end of the paintbrush. That end is not going to help really at all. We add our little indent, and there we go. Now, does the circle need anything? Circle itself here doesn't really need anything. But what I could do is just bring this around. Use the wrong tool to be doing this. I shouldn't be using my knife for this. And there we go. He has clasp in the back, everything attached in the front. And that's kind of what we're going for. I just want to smooth the U out a little bit. And there we go. So, other thing I got wrong is when I did this, well, two things. First off, we no longer need this as a background thing. That's not helping. And I don't think I had a zoomed in version on the belt, so sorry about that. I should have made a zoomed in. But when I did this, I have two things that are off. First, I made just a plus sign rather than a shuriken. A shuriken is pointy ends. So we need to make these ends a little more pointy, so it reads a little more like a shuriken, like it should. Okay, this guy is starting to get a little bit of weight to him. He is going to wind up being over a pound. When I first started these things, everything wound up being like significantly under a pound, and over time they're getting heavier as I go. Okay, well, that's slightly better without kind of messing anything up, because I think there's a lot of room for messing stuff up, but at least it's slightly better. And the other thing is, this first background layer actually gets indented a little bit. It has a front side, but then kind of down in the middle it gets indented, and I'm not sure I even have a proper tool for doing that. But we're just gonna do what we can with what we have here. Actually, this is going by better than I kind of thought it was. I was a little worried when I saw that image. I was like, oh, I didn't do the right thing. No. But, okay, that's actually not that hard a detail to do. Can you even see it? Kind of. So that gives a little bit of an indent there. And then in the corners, they put like little kind of beads to kind of show like it's been... Okay, that little thing is probably twice the size I need, given how small this is. So here's where we start losing pieces, because they are so tiny. But we want to have a little bead in the top corner. I want to have a little bead in the top corner. Yeah, if I had the zoomed in version up front for you to see, that would probably, a lot of this would make a little more sense why I'm doing this. But unfortunately, I don't. So I have one for the bottom corner, but as is usual, this little thing is twice the size that I need. So we cut it in half. Hope it doesn't. I'm not even sure it can physically cut in half without just turning into nothing. We get it off the finger. Pop it on there. We have one for the bottom corner there. There's something attached to this. Alright. Whoop, come on. I can almost see it I'm working with. That's perfect. Stick one in the bottom corner. And that now gets us what we want on this. Okay. And the rest is now pretty much going to be working on just kind of making this look a little better. So first things first, let's get ourselves a slightly clearer workspace so that I'm not just kind of rolling stuff on top of other stuff. And let's situate you back in here again. Again, before I go and harden it too, you've seen me do it before, I do need to put the wire back on here. And I'll fix up the claw or the foot there just a little bit. Can I do that? Well, that wasn't what I wanted to have happen. Okay, well, we can work with that. Stuff like that is not insurmountable. And I see what happened. It's because the wire itself got all twisty-like. So let's see. So the wire is trying to go in, and that's gonna wind up being problems. Okay, maybe I pull the wire out. We do have the wire on the other side still holding, so if I put pressure on, we should be okay? Question mark? So we're going to try that. We're just going to try to glue this in place. And if it breaks off again, it breaks off again. Good thing is, this is being painted. So again, if stuff like this happens, the goal is never just kind of go and freak out. It's like, okay, something happened. That's fine. We can deal with it. Things can break. I'm not worried. Alright, so we have that. We're going to let it harden for just a few seconds here. This is what I love about super glue, because it's just so fast. So yeah, I can do little touch-ups like that easy enough, and it's not going anywhere. And like I said, the wire isn't in that one, but as long as I have the wire in the other one, we should be fine. And if not, even if the whole thing just like disintegrates, I can always rebuild it from scratch. Again, nothing is ever permanent on these things. We can fix stuff as it goes. Ideally, I would have liked having them there, but yeah, I think when it was sitting on the base, it probably put pressure on it and twisted it, so that when it hardened, it was in a twisted state, and that's all that was. So, not a problem. Let's see, I don't have zoomed in on this one, do I? Not really. Well, we're just going to go with what we have there, and that's it. I didn't prep things as much as I should have. So, from distance, this whole part feels fine. This part's feeling okay. This kind of fell apart. So we gotta make this feel right. And I also want to smooth some stuff just so. Because yeah, we're going to be doing, like I said, I don't want to be doing this next session, because next session we're going to be doing an entirely different structural area on this. So we're just going to be starting a whole new thing kind of from scratch. So I don't want this to interfere with it. So if you are tired of seeing like this whole pant area again, like I mean the boots, they took like 4 or 5 sessions in a row, so it's like an entire week of just looking at boots. It's now been better part of a week of just looking at this area. So we are going to be moving on to the next. So if you are getting tired of watching this type of stuff, hang in there. We got some good things coming on. There are going to be some big changes. Maybe not as big a change as when I ripped him apart right after hardening. That was probably one of the bigger changes. But we do have some sizable ones coming in. They're going to make good difference. Let's see. You know what? I'm actually going to give me 1 second while I finagle stuff on my computer here, so that I have a better idea of what I'm working with. Because I've done a number of fold things in the past. I'm still not 100% great on them. I'm not terrible. I have been getting better, but I should have said zoom in and not zoom out. Why did I say zoom out? Let's go and just stick my own thing up here so that I can kind of see what I want to work on as well. Nope. Get off of the preview. I still want to be able to see what's on the preview screen for you guys. Okay, there we go. See, now I have a bigger thing here that I can look at my own stuff while you have yours up on the side. Because again, I only needed the other monitor for really early on in this whole process. I really don't need that anymore for anything. So everything I do is on this 14.5-inch monitor that I'm using. And that's about it. So whatever I'm doing has to fit on that. So I want you to come down a little bit more. And you actually kind of start up to the side of that. Come down. And then it kind of ducks in, I feel like. So we're probably too much on there. Something like this. So yeah, I'll be honest, the basing out, this is kind of like phase 3. I'm going to say the basing out, kind of getting the physical form of him and all that, sorry, was kind of the phase 1. Getting the shoes was kind of phase 2, getting those first kind of details in. But now that's done, now we are creating the character. Now we're in the phase 3 and beyond. And this is again where I start to have a lot more fun, because now he looks like something. This is when all the characters I do actually start looking like and reading like the characters I want them to be. And it's just so good when we get here. Let's see, that's going to wind up here, so that this can feel like it indents in. Because now anytime, after every session, I wrap them up in plastic. I put a plastic thing over them, just kind of, if there is humidity or whatnot, it kind of stays in there. We keep some semblance of moisture going on. Because again, it's not an air dry clay, it is a heat dry clay. But over time, it will harden out too. You can't keep it indefinitely. So I do still put the plastic over it just to kind of end it as such and try to keep it as good as I can. But that said, I need you gone. Every time I then can unwrap it to kind of start these models up, or kind of start these workups or these things up again, or if I'm leaving before work and I just want to kind of get a quick look at it to get an idea of if I need to kind of think things through kind of during the day a little bit, or I just want to kind of see what I've done and kind of unwrap it. It actually looks like something now. It makes me feel so good seeing something that actually looks like what it's kind of supposed to look like. Feels so good. This scene not feeling so good. We need this to... If you're going to come in, we want you to come up We need that to kind of come more towards the point. I think this is up a little high. And I haven't really rolled the lower edge of this. That's not right. This is not good. I should be taking them off the base. If I took them off the base, I'd probably be able to get to everything a little bit easier. I don't know why I'm not just doing this. And again, as is usual, I'll kind of do this a little more fine-tuned smoothing after this session ends, and that'll help iron out a number of these little details. As long as we get kind of a basic kind of thing going there, that at least looks a little more like it's folding down. What time are we? Okay, we still have like 20 minutes. Might be able to get some things done here. Let's still get, yeah, some stuff actually done. We need to kind of fix some of this, make sure we don't squish stuff we don't want to squish. I don't really need to go too much into the background. I only have limited time to do this one section. I shouldn't spend too much of it kind of on the back. We want to get the visual stuff done kind of first as a priority, or as a matter of priority. And again, don't want to go too subtle on these. We do want them to be, if we're going to do it, we want it to be actually visible. Otherwise, why do it in the first place? So. Yeah, so it kind of feels like a lot of just kind of pushing clay around. And sometimes it's kind of pushing clay around until it just feels right, and then we stop. So if I knew more, if I think I have more experience on these, like if I do like another 4 or 5 models, whatever on this, I may have a better idea of when I need to stop, when I need to keep going, when it kind of feels right. But right now it's just a lot of by feel. You kind of do it until something seems like it's okay, and then we're able to kind of stop at that point. But all in all, this leg isn't too terrible. The other leg, I do believe, needed some work. But I also have my stand backwards. Hey, there we go. That's actually now larger. That's creating more of a line than it was before. So if we're going to have more of a shadow line there, we want to give ourselves a little more of the shadow line on this bottom one to kind of counteract it, so it doesn't just feel like that's the only thing doing it. And this one is a little more subtle. It sticks out, but the bottom edge is more subtle. So I'm just gonna whenever I do folds though, I tend to be, I think, too shallow on them. So we're gonna see if I can make things a little bigger than I usually do. Yeah, this is, again, a little bigger than I usually go, but I think that's not necessarily a bad thing on this one. And that comes up, this kind of comes up. There we go. We have a little more of that going on, which is, again, not bad. Let's go slide my image over a little bit. Okay, so what are we doing on this one? So this guy needs kind of the same treatment. Need to make it a little bigger, actually up on the upper end this time, and then it falls down to the lower end. Let's see, so we want you to kind of be way up here. And then you're going to come back down. And again, subtlety is not what we're looking for. We want something big and bold. Alright, I almost feel like there's not enough pant coming down the side or down the bottom part here. And actually, you know what, if I'm gonna say I'm done, I'm feeling good about this leg, why don't I put the stripe on there just so we can have something along that line done. And if I'm making this stripe, what size are we? This is a 4. Okay, so this is a 4, and we're once again going to be using the straight edge that I don't necessarily want to be using, but necessity calls because I don't have my other straight edges. Okay, so our goal now is to, we want nice and thin. Just a little line like that. this is going to come from now we can have it go up a little. Whoop. We can go up a little higher than we need to, and we can, like as is usual, we can then cut it off. As you can tell, that kind of becomes our modus operandi over time. And let's hope we gave ourselves enough. I think we have. Oh, we definitely have. We have well more than enough. Okay, so it doesn't actually come 100% down the center. It kind of comes in, then it goes in, and then kind of curves back again. As it goes down the side, and then up here we do our usual. You're gonna find that is always gonna be my usual whenever we do any of these kind of like little kind of stringy things. You just make it long, go cut it to size, and just kind of tuck it in so it looks like it's starting underneath the element we want it to look like it's starting under. And that is one of the stripes. A little bit of smoothing kind of inside here, but in general, that's how we're gonna do that. I'm gonna put you off on the side right now, and let's see if we can do anything with this to make this look right, good, or whatever. So I'm gonna put a little more up top here, just because it seems like it wants to dive at the end quite a bit, at least on the preview image. Okay, we need that to look less bad. If we can get that to look less bad, then that's a success. Wait, what? Less bad should never be, well, less bad should be the goal, but phrasing it as such should never be the goal. We want things to look good. Not less bad. Well, again, yes, less bad, but we want it to look spectacular, great, magnificent, exemplary, adequate, all of the above. Hopefully more of the first ones, not so much, not have someone explain or exclaim, it's adequate at the end. We want something to sound better. Okay, so that's going to come, yeah, so that's in there. That then dives down, and we need to then work. I think the top isn't too bad in relation to how it works with the image on there. I do need to do a decent chunk of work on the bottom here. I think this could go a decent way towards in. I love it when I keep flipping my stuff. Come on. Get out of there. Okay. That's not so bad, but we just kind of want it to come further. Yeah, we need to feel like it starts from inside and comes out. I think that's the key. So it came in, it did that, and then it folded. And then it kind of flopped down from there. There we go. That's not so bad. Be careful where I stick my finger on that, because I don't want to crush this belt or push that in at all. We need this to actually work. Yeah, I'm not even looking at kind of that whole section. But I figure if on here I can get this part, because again, when he gets displayed at my place in the end, that's going to be against the wall. This is what we're going to be seeing. So yeah, that's generally what I'm going to be looking at, is probably back against the wall. Here we're going to see. And so we got to make sure, at least, if nothing else, at a minimum, this part's got to look good. Scrolling you up. Down here gets more stuff. Okay, so we want this to swirl in. That much seems okay. We also need this to kind of... I will need to rectify all this on the back end of it. I will definitely need to rectify all of this on the back end. And part of me says I should show doing all the folds on the back side of this, and part of me saying it's... You get the idea, you know how long it's taking to do this, and it is worth then just moving on. And so I think, again, I will probably just finish that part off camera and then just start fresh with the new, exciting, good stuff in the next session, because it will be some good stuff. Everything is about to, just like when I started kind of blocking out this, things started to change. Everything is about to kind of change again in a good way. Let's see, this, when it comes up, is going to need to come kind of towards these guys. The fold just doesn't stop right there. It keeps going. Yeah, let's get you in here. Once again, I have you backwards. let's see, what time are we? We're that time. So what I could do is for now, just to finish this off, I'm going to put the line down the top here. That'll finish off this session. And then we'll see if I could probably easily spend another half hour doing the folds on the backside, in which case I could do either that followed by the whatchamacallit, followed by a hardening session, or I could, I think you're a teeny bit wide, or I could just start the next session, the next section of this off right away and just go with that. I think both scenarios kind of work. Okay, let me just zoom in on my screen so I can see. Yeah, you kind of just start from here and almost go straight across right off the bat. It's not that dramatic of a turn. Get off. How far down do we go? To something like that. Once again, it's going to get... It will get tucked in. It may not want to get tucked in, but it's going to happen. Dude, get in there. You don't have a choice in the matter. Get in. Okay, then up top gets its little wink. Alright, so that's in there. We can probably get some of this out. And there we have it. We have a little more detail-y stuff going on our model. Stick him back up. He's still in. That doesn't squish anything in the back. I have all this extra clay all over the place. It's just sticking to everything. So maybe it's about time we do end this, because all this is just squishing away. Let's go minimize you. And yeah, that is where we stand at the moment. We have pants, and we got a belt. And we have this whole kind of lower section is really just about ready for hardening. Like I said, I'll think about it. The next session, it might be just kind of doing stuff on the back just so you can see the whole thing being done. Or it might be it might just do that off camera. And then we're just going to start 100% from scratch, from fresh, on the next section I'm going to be working on him from. So I'll think about it again. Today is my early in the week one, so it's going to be another like 3-4 days before I get back to this again and do the next part. So I'll think about it between now and then. But no, this is where we are now on the Bang Shishigami project. And he's looking a lot more detailed out. So this is good, and until next time, enjoy.